Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
When we define log, the standard branch cut is to remove the negative x-axis, and then you get a simply connected open set on which you can define a branch of the logarithm. This is what you usually do. Here we cannot quite do that because we want this function to be defined on the negative x-axis. Because of the choice of contour and so on that we are taking, we want the function to be defined on the negative x-axis. So we will choose a different branch of the logarithm. So instead of removing the negative x-axis, we can remove some other axis or part of the axis so that we have a well-defined logarithm. So for instance, so where log z is a branch of the logarithm which is defined on the x-axis, so that integral from little r to capital R and integral from minus capital R to minus small r makes sense. For instance, we can take the branch with negative y-axis as the branch cut. So I will remove the negative y-axis, including 0. Then log is then you get a simply connected open set. On that, logarithm has a can be thought of as a well-defined holomorphic function. You have a branch of the logarithm when you remove the negative y-axis, including 0. So that is what we will do. So then log of x is equal to log x, the usual log x if x is positive, and it's equal to log of mod x plus I pi if x is less than 0. So when you take, for example, you can check that e raised to log of mod x plus I pi gives you mod x into minus 1 when x is negative. So it gives you, e raised to log of mod x plus I pi is really equal to x on the when x is less than 0. So this is the values which log takes on the x-axis minus the origin. Yeah, is this clear so far before going ahead? Okay, so let's go ahead. So integral log z dz upon 1 plus z square along gamma is integral little r to capital R plus integral along the outer semicircle plus integral from minus capital R to minus little r plus integral along the smaller semicircle in the anti-clockwise direction. Yeah, same as before, the integral breaks up into sum of 4 integrals. Now left hand side is equal to 2 pi I times residue of f at I. There are two poles, z square plus 1 has has two zeros, I and minus I. Minus I is not in the contour, while I will be in the contour. So when you take the residue of the function at I and multiply by 2 pi I, you get 2 pi I times log of I upon 2I, which is the 2I cancel, and you get pi times log I. Yeah. And log of I is equal to pi I by 2. So you get pi square I upon 2. Okay, so this is the left hand side integral, just using knowledge of the residue. So therefore, you know the sum of the 4 integrals. So therefore, the integral from little r to capital R plus the integral from minus capital R to minus small r, this is equal to, first of all, this is equal to, I want to manipulate this a little bit. So this first term, so from the first equation, the first integral plus the third integral, I can write this as 2 times integral log x dx upon 1 plus x square from little r to capital R. This integral from little r to capital R plus the integral of log of mod x by 1 plus x square from minus capital R to minus small r. This together gives you 2 times integral from little r to capital R log x dx upon 1 plus x square. And then you are left with plus I pi times integral from little r to capital R dx upon 1 plus x square. It should be 1 plus x square, that square has gone at the very end. Yeah, just make a change of variables if you like, and you will see that this is equal to this. For example, if you want to compute I pi times integral I pi upon 1 plus x square dx from minus capital R to minus small r. Make a change of variables. Minus define y equal to minus x, so you'll get I pi upon 1 plus y square, and it integral from capital R to small r into minus dy, and to absorb the minus sign you will reverse the ends of the integral, and you will be integrating from little r to capital R instead. Yeah, so this is just simple manipulation. Just think about it. The only little typo is that at the very end it should be I pi times integral from little r to capital R dx upon 1 plus x square. The square has gone. I will make that correction. So this is equal to 2 times this 2 times integral from little r to capital R log x dx upon 1 plus x square plus I pi times what the integral 1 by 1 plus x square is equal to tan inverse x, and this is tan inverse x gives you pi by 2. So I pi times pi by 2. So I pi square by 2. All this in the limit. So sorry, I'm being so sorry. I should be a little more careful. Yeah, sorry. This last integral I pi times integral dx upon 1 plus x square from little r to capital R. I have directly written its value in the limit pi square I. Actually, it is tan inverse capital R minus tan inverse small r. But I'm going to take limit as r tends to infinity and little r tends to 0. So I have jumped a step slightly and already written the value in the limit, which is pi square I upon 2. Maybe I'll write it a little better and resend the slides. But in the limit, that is what you get. Any doubts? Can I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Everything is clear?
Sir, it is clear.
Yeah. Just go through the computation slowly later. So where are we now? So we are so we have computed the sum of the first and third term. I mean, not computed, but we have, so this final expression 2 times integral log x by 1 plus x square plus pi square I by 2. This is the sum of the first and third term. So this will be equal to the integral log x upon 1 plus x square dx from little r to capital R is equal to minus half times integral log z dz upon 1 plus x square plus integral log z dz upon 1 plus z square. The first integral along the outer circle, the second one along the inner circle. Simply by substituting the LHS is, I have substituted as pi square by I. This pi square by I in the LHS cancels with the pi square by I that I have got at the end. Yeah, pi square I by 2. The left hand side is pi square I by 2. I have also got a pi square I by 2 in the right hand side at the very end. Those two terms cancel each other. So finally what I am left with is that 2 times integral log x dx upon 1 plus x square from little r to capital R is equal to minus the sum of those two integrals, the integral along gamma capital R and gamma small r. So bringing the 2 to the other side, I get integral log x dx upon 1 plus x square from little r to capital R is minus half times the sum of these two integrals. Just substituting the values that we know. Now we need to we need to make some estimates once again. Again, it's going to be some kind of ML inequality. So I want to estimate these So suppose I have modulus of integral log z dz upon 1 plus z square along gamma rho. So rho is some real number, positive real number. Gamma rho is the upper circle of radius rho. I don't want to take little r or capital R because they are already being used. I just take any real number rho and make some estimates. So integral log z dz upon 1 plus z square along gamma rho modulus is equal to rho times log rho plus, so z is equal to rho e raised to I theta, right? So the numerator becomes log rho plus I theta upon 1 plus rho square e raised to I theta into e raised to I theta d theta.
Shouldn't it be e power I 2 theta?
Yeah. Maybe it should be 2 theta. Sorry. Plus 1 plus rho square e raised to 2I theta. E raised to I theta d theta. That's right. I'm wondering whether I've got something wrong. Okay, let's see. Maybe I think sorry. There should be a e raised to 2I theta. I think. Anyway, that's probably not going to matter. You will see. So that is less than or equal to rho times. So break it up into sum of two integrals. So this will be less than or equal to rho times modulus of log rho upon 1 minus rho square. So this minimum value. So what will be the max? So when will log rho upon 1 plus rho square e raised to I theta? What? So I want an estimate for the upper bound for log rho upon 1 plus rho square e raised to 2I theta. Yeah, but 1 plus rho square e raised to 2I theta will be the minimum possible when this the minimum value. So I have some numerator upon some denominator. This will have the maximum possible value when the denominator is the minimum possible. So the minimum value of the denominator is 1 minus rho square. When e raised to I theta is minus 2I theta is minus 1, I'll get 1 minus rho square. So the denominator is clearly bigger than or equal to 1 minus modulus of 1 minus rho square. The numerator is rho times modulus less than or equal to rho times modulus of log rho. So times integral d theta plus rho upon same reason rho upon 1 modulus of 1 minus rho square integral theta d theta from 0 to pi. Yeah, it should be e raised to 2I theta, but that in the denominator it should be e raised to 2I theta, but doesn't matter. That is still bounded by this 1 minus rho square. Yeah. So this is equal to pi rho times modulus of log rho upon modulus of 1 minus rho square plus rho times pi square by 2 times, rho pi square upon 2 times 1 minus rho square. Just computing the two integrals, you get this. And this is 0 in the limit if rho tends to 0 from the positive side or rho tends to infinity. So let's look at what happens when rho tends to. So this is what we get at the end. Just applying, replacing the maximum value of the function and taking it outside. This is the inequality that we get. That the modulus of the integral that we want is bounded above by pi rho modulus log rho upon 1 minus rho square mod of that plus rho pi square upon 2 times modulus of 1 minus rho square. This is the final upper bound, and I want to show that in the limit, if rho tends to 0 from the right or rho tends to infinity, this is 0. Why is that? Because let's look at what happens when rho tends to infinity, for example, or let's look at what happens when rho tends to 0 first. When rho tends to 0, the denominators tend to 1 and the denominator tends to 1 and 2 respectively. The first term will tend to denominator. The first term will tend to 1. Second term will tend to 2. And numerators will tend to 0 because rho times modulus of log rho will go to 0 as rho tends to 0 from the right. As rho tends to 0, log rho tends to minus infinity, but rho will tend to 0 faster than log rho tends to minus infinity, so the product will tend to 0. And in the second case, it's obvious that if rho tends to 0, then rho pi square upon 2 times 1 minus rho square will go to 0. So when rho tends to 0 from the right, this goes to 0. When rho tends to 0 when rho tends to infinity, since the denominator is quadratic and the numerator is in the second term, the numerator is just rho. So rho upon 1 minus rho square will go to 0 as rho tends to infinity. In the first term, you have rho times modulus of log rho upon 1 minus rho square. So rho times modulus of log rho will go to infinity slower than anything quadratic, because log rho tends to infinity slower than any linear term. So rho times log rho will go to infinity slower than anything which is quadratic. So when you take modulus of log rho upon 1 minus rho square, that will tend to 0 as rho tends to infinity. So whether rho tends to 0 from the right or rho tends to infinity, both these terms go to 0. Is it clear? Okay, so let me just hurriedly say this once again. So I wanted modulus of integral log z upon 1 plus z square. So I substitute z equal to rho e raised to I theta. Then that's the expression I get. Then break up the integral into sum of two integrals. And then in the first factor, log rho upon 1 plus rho square e raised to 2I theta will be bounded above by rho times modulus of log rho upon 1 minus rho square modulus, because 1 plus rho square times e raised to 2I theta, it should be 2I theta. So log rho upon 1 plus rho square times e raised to 2I theta will be bounded above by rho times mod log rho upon 1 minus rho square modulus. And similarly, the second term will be bounded by rho upon 1 minus rho upon modulus of 1 minus rho square. So finally, I get, when you integrate the two functions, which are very easy to integrate in this case, you get pi rho times mod log rho upon mod of 1 minus rho square plus rho pi square upon 2 times 1 minus rho square modulus, and rho times log rho increases slower than 1 minus rho square as rho tends to infinity. So that goes to 0 as rho tends to infinity. Similar. The second term is even more obvious because it is rho upon 1 minus rho square. That will go to 0 as rho tends to infinity. Similarly, as rho tends to 0,